Hey people, and today we're going to be making a 16-inch high latex and sponge sorting hat with animated mouth. How I'm going to do this, I have no idea, but it'll be fun finding out. So let's do this. Okay, so what we've got here, we've got my metal stand, and I've just put some gaffer tape on it so it doesn't stick to the clay when we sculpt it. And our next move is to cut out a side profile of this baby. Now we've got 16 inches, so let's just measure that very quickly. 16 inches, there, and just a rough side profile of this. There we go. Just cut that out and we'll know how big it needs to be. Okay, so I've got my side profile cut out there nicely. It fits in just fine. What we need to do is avoid that touching there and the mouth there, because that's going to be sculpted in, because it's going to be animated. So we don't want to hit that bar there or there. And now let's take a look what clay we're going to use. Okay, so what we've got here is wet clay, and all you do is just block out your shapes, and when you want to smooth it off, you just use a little bit of water. Time lapse. The sculpture is done. Just got to wait for it to dry a bit. The back view, hope you can see that. And when it dries a bit, we're going to apply the plaster and make the mold. Right, and the next step is we just hit it with some of this matte wax release agent. You can use Vaseline or petroleum jelly, but this stuff is just easier to get into all those little wrinkles, eye sockets, and mouth. Right, so what we've got here is fine casting powder. It's basically plaster of Paris, and all you do is just add 1 kilo of powder to 750 ml of water. So let's do this. And then just mix it with your hand like that. Just a little bit more in that. That feels about right. It's basically like yogurt, the consistency of yogurt. So it's smooth enough to drip it on and paint it onto the sculpt, but not too hard to maneuver and not too runny, so it just falls right off. Okay, so all I've done here is I've just tilted the sculpt back a bit like that, so I can get into all those cavities, and I'm going to apply the plaster like so. Hope you can see this. It's not rocket science, just making sure you get into all those cavities and don't create any air holes underneath the plaster and the sculpt. Okay, so I've just carried on applying layers. Each layer you put on, you want to keep the last layer sort of wet, because that way it sticks to each other much better. And I'm just building it up, so there's like a good 1.5 to 2 inches of plaster around the whole sculpt. I'm just trying to get it up like as smooth as possible for the finished result so it looks pretty. It's just got to be strong. There we go. That's better. There we go. Just get it all nice and smooth. And you can sand this down after, when it's completely dry. You can sand it down to get rid of any of those sharp edges. There we go, all covered. Okay, so we're back and we're all dry. Now, this next step, I don't know exactly how I'm going to tackle it, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bolts off here, hope you can see that, and flip it over on its head, place it into this bin here. Now hopefully the rim there will rest on that, and then I can take out the sculpt. So I'll get that set up and I'll get straight back to you. Okay, so we're all set. Here we go. Ooh, that was easier than I thought. Okay, now it's just a case of getting the clay out. Just to be very careful, you don't want to damage the actual mold itself. So this is going to take forever. So I'll just keep picking at it. And when I get it to a point where you can sort of see the inside more, I'll turn the camera back on because this could take a good hour or so. You don't want to be watching this. Okay, so it's starting to happen now. Hope you can see that. My camera angles. You just want to take your time with it. Don't rush it. And just keep picking at it. Right, so we're getting right down to the bottom here now. What's important here is don't get carried away. Don't start hacking at it because you'll damage the wall of the plaster. So what I like to do is I like to just, I hope you can see that, just go in away from the wall and just pull the clay to the side. This is where that release agent comes in handy because it doesn't come out easy, but see, eventually you can get hold of a piece and just come straight away. Okay, so it's empty. Everything's there from the inside. Hope you can see that. The plus side of doing it this way is that you end up with no seams. The downside of it is that you end up having to really dig in there to get him out, and if it's in two parts you can get to it dead easy, but it takes forever to do it. But once it's done, to make them, to turn them out, that is, it's so much faster because you can just dump the latex in and then dump it out, let it dry, and you just pull it out really easy. Whereas if it's in two parts, you've got a seam to contend with and all that. So yeah, I'll just clean that up and let's cast one of these. Okay, so the next step is to fill it with latex. Now, I don't know if you can see there, I've been unfortunate, I've had some air bubbles, and all you do is just take the clay and just pop the clay in there, fill that cavity, and just rub it away so it doesn't leave too much of a different texture. And once that's all done, all you do is just dump in your latex, like so. I'm going to put some in, and I'm going to swirl it around. Oh, this weighs a lot. I guess my camera angle is terrible here, but you can see what I'm doing basically. It's just, I'm just swirling it around just to get all those deep eye sockets there. There we go. And then just keep filling it all the way up. Just want to make sure it gets in everywhere, all the way to the top, like so. And then all you do is just let it sit like this, depending on the temperature. I'm going to let it sit for about 2 hours, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to dump out the excess. And what happens is the latex starts going off from the outside and it creates a skin. That's why it has to be a plaster cast, so it sucks out the moisture here, stays wet there, dries on the skin, and then when you dump it out, depending on how long you leave it sitting, that's the difference of thicknesses. So you want it about, I don't know, 2 mil. That'll be a good thickness for the mouth to move nicely. And then once you've dumped it out, you let it set so it dries from the inside then from here. And you don't want it hot. What you want is like nice warm air. So if it's a nice day, just open the door and put a fan blowing directly into it, and that will dry it the fastest. Okay, so just let that set. I'll just fill it up all the way to the top. So we've got a nice thick rim there, like so. Yep. And just let that sit for 2 hours. Okay, so it's been about 3 hours. And now I'm just gonna empty what's in it into this bucket the best I can without making a big mess. I hope you can see this. strain it all out the best I can. Hope you can see in there, like that. And what I like to do is I like to just place it upside down and just let it drip out like that. And just let it dry like that for about 24 hours. And then I'll just transfer this back into the latex can. I'll see you in 24. Right, so it's been 24 hours. It's all nice and dry. Hope you can see that. First things first, I just put a little bit of talcum powder inside, just so it doesn't stick to itself. When I try and take it out, two sides might stick to itself like that, but with the talc in it, it just stops that from happening. Yeah, that's plenty. And now I'm just gonna cut around this flashing here before I get it out. Go. And now the moment of truth. Cool. Very cool. He's having a little sleep. Right, so now I don't know if you can remember on my original drawing I hope you can see that, latex sponge, and the sponge represents this rim here, just to make sure that's more sturdy. So I've got some very thin, it's about, I would say 7-8 mil thickness of sponge, and I'll just trace it around that, minimum wastage. And I just give a little dot there, to indicate where the back and the front is. 2 dots there and 2 there. That's it. Okay. Perfect. Yes, that'll do just fine. Right, my setup here is just two little trestles, a piece of wood, and I'm going to cut out the size of that there. Okay, now that should fit in perfectly. Yes, great stuff. One line, where are you? There you go. That's your one line. There, 2 lines there. Just cut that to fit and we're ready to go. Okay, I've made those lines more obvious for us on this side, and just flip it, keep it in the same orientation like that, and some contact adhesive, high strength contact adhesive, and just plow it on onto both sides, flip it, put it down, and then these bits that I've cut out here, hope you can see, they'll just fold down into there and hold this rim really, really strong and keep that sturdy. Okay, so I've applied contact adhesive here and contact adhesive here. It's sort of nearly dry. It's still a bit tacky, which is good. Now, how to do this without sticking it before it needs to stick? Just take your time. Just take your time. I hope you can see this. Just take your time. I'm just going with the line on the outside. Take your time, like so. Keeping this away from here until you're ready to glue it down. Making sure that lines up there. So I'll make, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. But I'll show you what you can do if that happens. And it's happened again. What happens is that the sponge sort of stretches when you put the contact adhesive in, I'm guessing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut that excess out. Just a little, like a little V. And that should do it, yes. Yes, like so. And then just fold these in. Hope my angles are okay. Oh yeah, much better. just take that latex and paint the sponge and all those little gaps, and that will just backfill it nicely and make it even sturdier. Okay, so that's dry-ish, still a bit tacky, but it needs to be stronger around the edge here so it doesn't flop down when it's the other way around. So what I've got is I've got some garden mat there. I've just cut it up into little pieces like that, and then I'm just laminating it on to the sides here with some latex itself, as if you was matting up with fiberglass. It's the same process, just like that. Bends around corners nicely because it's a gauze, just like that. I hope my angles are okay here, but basically I'm just painting it on, flattening it down so it all stays put, and when it dries that will hold that edge really sturdy. Plus it'll give it a nice sort of material texture on the bottom if ever you flipped it and took a look underneath. Okay, so I've given it time to dry. It's all nice and dry. I hope you can see that. And now all we do is we just give it a little clean with this stuff. It's contact adhesive thinner and cleaner. And all I do is I just get a bit of sponge like that and clean it off to get rid of any of that clay residue that was inside the mold itself. It's that quick, just like that. So when we go to paint it, it'll stick to it like glue, literally. Right, now that I've cleaned off all the excess clay with that contact adhesive thinner and cleaner, now I take this rubber cement, 1 part rubber cement, 2 parts cleaner, thinner, contact adhesive, and my oil-based paint. It's very important to be oil-based, and I just pop that in there. I've got them mixed together already, and then I just make my color up. I'm just making a light brown just to give it a base coat. Now the good thing about this is when you paint it on, it dries almost immediately. It evaporates and dries almost immediately. So one way it's good because it dries immediately, but in the other way you have to be fast. So don't wait around with it. Start painting and keep going. Here we go. As I said, don't take your time. Just get it on there, nice even layers, but get it on there quick, because what the rubber cement does is it creates a mechanical bond, and the thinner, the contact adhesive thinner, makes it thin enough to spread so it doesn't stick to your brush, and then the paint makes it the color you want. But as you can see, as I'm putting it on there, it's literally drying as I'm putting it on. So don't hang about. There we go. That's already dry. It's scary, but cool. Right, we've applied that layer on and it's nice and dry. It's still a bit tacky, but it's fine. And now I'm just going to go in with the same technique, just a darker oil-based brown, just for some shading, and we'll just see where this goes. I'll start here on the rim. There we go. We can see that, and just making it look ancient. Apparently it's meant to be 1,000 years old. Okay, we've got that second coat on there, that darker coat, and now just go in for some very, very deep, dark sockets in the eyes and in the mouth and in all those wrinkles. So it's the same mix with just a little bit of black in it. Okay, so the sorting hat is done. I'll give you a little tour all the way around. Hope you can see that. Yep, the back, other side, and the front. Gryffindor. Now, I know he sounds Mexican, but there was a very famous Mexican wizard once, and he said, uno, dos, and he disappeared without a trace. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you like it, and if you don't, then don't, because I understand you can't be everybody's cup of tea. And if you was everybody's cup of tea, that would just make you a mug, or a muggles in this case. So I'll see you next time.